Okay, excellent. Miguel, did you get a chance to look at the video with Marshall?
Yes, I looked at his first interview and got some of his background, and I also looked at the hour-long final interview.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked what I was seeing. I really liked his resume and his background. I believe that the two of this, the mechanical engineering and architecture background he has would work well with your goal and also with my goals, not only in the property here in Nevada County, but also with your property at Factory E Farm and some of the long-term objectives you may have.
Mm-hmm. So, what are your thoughts about uh, working with him, working closely with him on the bootstrap funding model? How,
I
what are
think
your thoughts?
I think it's a good idea. I like the clay earth brick press, and I also like the idea that you wanted to standardize and open source a building approach with that. Now, as far as my how I would participate that, I think I've way I would like to envision me participating with that would be um, taking part in the actual fabrication of it. And my understanding is you want to start doing it on a one per day basis, so it probably won't start out there in the beginning. So it seems like it's going to be a very iterative process. So it seems like we're going to try it once, figure out what worked, what didn't work, try to make it better the next time. So I would actually like to take part in the fabrication, take part in the um, problem solving with what could be done better in the manufacturing process, and actually like to I would like to be involved in as many roles as possible so I can begin to replicate that here.
Yeah. So, tell me more. Like, which can you be more specific? Which all of the roles would you be interested in being involved in?
I could see it seems like you already have the design pretty well down, so it would be actually I would like
Mhm.
to have a role in fabrication and take responsibility as part of that. Maybe not some of the more technical aspects, but some of the things that need to be done to get it complete. I would like to um, engage in some of the problem solving as far as maybe some ways that some of the workflows and not processes, but maybe some of the workflows and how it would, what steps would be taken, but you probably have a good grasp on that. Um, I'd also like to do some strategic development, possibly, and start developing opportunities to employ the replication of the actual distributive enterprise model. So, and actually developing some plans for that, which I already have one I was going to propose to you at some point in this conversation, is
Mhm.
something to be done out here.
Yeah. Um,
And
yeah.
I guess another thing with that is it seems like I was looking over the website that you have yet to be producing all your own food on site yet.
Oh, yeah.
That's right. Now,
We're, yeah, yeah. We're starting on every. It's like, our tractors. We don't have anything that works really. It's like we're getting everything to work. We haven't really used. Well, we've used the CB press to build our housing, which is getting finished up in the workshop. So that's awesome. But we haven't used the tractor to feed ourselves yet. There's so everything is in its infancy. We've shown initial excellent results. We've got a long way to go. So that's where I think it's a lot of that is going to come together. Right now we have only 4 people on site. By July 1st, it looks like we're going to have actually 17. So we're getting all this in gear with the farm director. We're still looking for a construction director. Um, Community manager, I think, is another emergent role, and really energy director, because that's going to be a huge role because we're off grid here too, and we've got projects like the solar concentrator and modern steam engine with pelletized biomass and things like that. The workshop power actually relates to that because we want to also demonstrate not only a robust enterprise but also a robust off-grid enterprise for viral scalability. It's like we're going at the level of viral scalability, so design the bootstrap funding into this whole process is what we're about. Okay,
so
tell me
as
more.
far as helping solving that, providing a way to produce all your food on property, I was hoping kind of a general way to approach the my engaging in the property and factory farm and open source ecology is there's actually a wide range of people out here who are willing to actually who are into aquaponics, who are in, and let me rephrase this. They, I'm waiting to get their approval on a video so I could send it to you. They gave us a tour of their facilities, but they're one of, as he stated, 1 to 200 people who really have hands-on experience with aquaponics in
One of 200 worldwide or U.S.?
in the U.S. And
What's the leading effort in the U.S.?
the leading effort, there's Growing Power in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. There's also Sweetwater Organics over there. And the problem right now is nobody can come up with a economically viable aquaponics business model.
Right.
And one of the things that led me into doing vermiculture and worm farming, which I'll get into more also, is checked out these facilities and I realized composting was a fundamental aspect of their operations, but yet they were not utilizing it as a profitable aspect. So I realized that in order to start a profitable aquaponics facility, I basically need to start a profitable composting, and that's where I got into worm farming. And now another problem with aquaponics is the food source is not reliable. They're basically using pelletized food.
Tell me about the aquaponics relation to composting. You're talking about for example, what I've seen before was worms in gravel beds who eat up the fish remains, the fish crab they eat up. Are you talking about composting with respect to the fish waste in aquaponics, or what are you talking about?
I'm looking at utilizing the municipal waste from any city, town, region, area that they produce with yard clipping. Because we just successfully ran some green waste through our process, and with the worm farm, it's actually very, very methodical and systematic process of worm farming. It's not the typical worm beds, and with this process, you can actually, it's a concentrated diet, so you know what's going in and what's going out. So we're actually feeding our worms certified organic compost, and now that means the worms that are being raised are certified organic because they were born, raised, bred, hatched, and matured in these same soil. So we can basically start to identify the nutritional value in each worm and feed the fish, the aquaponics system, a diet of just worms, and then that will enable them to be certified organic as well. The fish, which is also a problem today.
Mm-hmm.
So it's providing this food source, a sustainable food source for the worm farm, for the aquaponics, and also selling the worm castings and developing other product, which is very beneficial to growing food as well.
Here, our nearest waste streams are about half an hour or so, probably like 34 miles away, for probably a consistent source.
And the process.
Go ahead.
The process I'm using, actually, it's proprietary information, which we basically purchased a couple months ago. And I've actually went to school for industrial design, and I already innovated the process. And there's actually that's some more stuff that could be kind of talked about in a later discussion. But I've already innovated that process, and the process I'm using, the headquarters ships from Wisconsin all the way to California and Oregon. So there's a high demand for this high quality worm castings, and so that's the financial aspect of it, and the work required to operate it is very low. So when you combine that with aquaponics, which the labor involved is very low as well, they're complementary systems, and that's where the profit margin would be able to be increased and actually provide an economically viable aquaponics model. And the people out here in the video, they state how they would be willing to help consult and design and build a community-based aquaponics system that could feed several families with very limited work. And when you combine that with worm farming, like I said, we have the 56 acres out here. The goal would be to do a clay earth brick building and southern-facing hillsides. So we'll be able to have basically year-round temperature control and food production, and we can almost open source that idea out here, and then that could be replicated at Factory Farm, because this is where the knowledge base is that I'm working with in regards to production.
Mm-hmm. The place in Wisconsin is what?
The place out here in Northern California. This is where there's actually a demonstration site, which that's more of a private concept as well, but it's more. I have two very reputable groups here that would be willing to consult and develop an open source an aquaponics system on the property where I'm working now, and that could be replicated on Factor E Farm. And that wouldn't start, I wouldn't picture until after we get the clay earth brick press built and we actually get the ability to develop the structures. And then those could be married and we could have a worm farm aquaponics clay earth building structure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. How does that relate to the immediate goal on a compressed earth brick press? Are you saying you'd like to be working on that here, or are you saying that's down the road?
That would be down the road. That's because I'm actually working with my investors out here. And when I applied for this job, it was because the soil we were using, we kind of misdirected on the soil to use. And we are actually told that we cannot use compost in our system. So when it started, soil wasn't working. It was more of a nitrogen or carbon-based soil out here because it's all compost. In that regard, the worms weren't liking it and they started dying. So the business was actually starting to fail a little bit. And that's when I had to figure out alternative ways to make sure the property I was working with, their money wasn't wasted. And by the time I already had my second interview, that's when the worms responded to this new soil I put in there. So now both opportunities have been developed. So in order for me to fully engage open source ecology, part of what I like to see of that is in the long run, within the next year or two, have something developed here on the property. And that's where I see if I can have that part to be part of my goal, I would be able to give you my full mind, body, and spirit in helping you develop the clay earth brick press, get that systemized, or get that process down, get the structure down for the clay earth brick building. And then once that's in place, we can replicate the clay earth brick manufacturing process here on the property I'm working on, because we already have a 5,000 square foot barn with machine shop, welding area, wood shop, and we could actually very readily start making these clay earth brick press out here. So replicate that aspect of the business, and also start replicating the different types of structures that could be built with the clay earth brick. One of those being the aquaponics worm farm building here on the property.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What requirements for that development do you have here? Like if you were to work with us here, so are you saying that you would have spent part of your time on that development, or?
That would be more of a kind of a hobby on the side, where I would just send out emails and put out my feelers, and the resource base, the community-based resource is already in place. So it's just a matter of developing the network and the resources, and part of that being your clay earth brick press and the network that you have with open source ecology. So I believe that wouldn't be much of my time while I'm at open source ecology. It's just more or less people are just getting familiar. They don't even know about open source ecology out here yet. So whenever I have a chance, I advocate it. They don't really know about the Factor E Farm. A lot of people are just getting into aquaponics. So I figure while I'm over there working in the clay earth brick press, there could just be very light work of generating consciousness and planting the seed for this idea in this community base, which when we work with large groups like that, it does take a lot longer time to generate understanding and a group effort towards a common goal. So while that's being developed, I can focus my energy on your already identified goal.
Mm-hmm. What kind of time commitment can you, in terms of the time commitment, I mean, what's realistic to expect from you on a weekly basis regarding participation in developing the $20,000 per month distributive enterprise business model based on first the compressed earth brick press?
I would like to spend about half my day in the fabrication. I would like to spend half my day helping other aspects to facilitate that reiterative fabrication process, and kind of with the same mentality you have with the passion and inspiration is that I just go at it 24/7. That's basically what I'm doing now with this idea and how I was led to your opportunity, which we're talking about. So it's kind of something when the worm farm wasn't going, I'm finding other ways to develop and make the opportunity work. So it's whatever's necessary. I'm basically eat, sleep, and breathe the projects I'm working on.
Yeah, yeah, um, yeah. Let's
So
see.
it could be
So,
basically 12 hours a day, a couple hours, for rest and my food and preparation, but basically, yeah, about 10, 12 hours a day seems about right.
mhm. And we typically rest on Sundays, Saturdays. We might have some group work um, or other stuff. We actually want to have like basically a community meeting that day and discuss issues of community development and also kind of like visioning of where we're going and helping actually each other grow as people. We got to spend a little bit of time on the community development aspects as well. So that would be Saturdays, and we might have like some days there might be like if we got to finish the stucco on the house or something, we might call for a work day. So kind of plan on like maybe 6 hours on Saturdays or so in terms of maybe group work as needed if we need to do stuff. So there's construction, like we are going to build those additional living units on the week time scale, developing that towards that, and there might be some agriculture stuff to do as well with our farm director and stuff like that. So that'll be the kind of schedule. But you'd be interested basically in working throughout the week. I mean Monday through Friday. Basically, you'd be spending all the time that's necessary to make the compressed earth brick press stuff happen.
Correct. I haven't had a typical work week
Mm-hmm.
since I was in school. Basically, I don't have weekends or work weeks. I basically work 7 days a week. If something has to be done, I use the daylight for things that need to be done outside, and when I try to do the things I can do on the computer at night. I do at night, and if certain things need to be done or need to be online that take priority over certain things during the daylight, that's when I'll take some of the time during the day to use some of those things on the computer. So I
Mm-hmm.
really kind of utilize the stage gate process loosely in my approach, where in order for me to move forward in my goal, there's certain things that need to reach a certain level before everything can move forward again. So that's kind of I'm open for community development. I'm open. I'm very communicative on that aspect. I kind of wear my heart on my sleeve. So I'm very if I see a concern, I like to talk about it and work
Mm-hmm.
through it, because that's when you actually feel better once you make it through those problems. And
Mm-hmm.
being in the Marines and having callus in my vocal cords in boot camp, and also having this couple months in boot camp and basically a year during deployment of having the military institution communication ingrained in my way I speak, I realized that my communication was not the best when I got out of the Marines. So ever since then, combined with my voice, I've basically that's been one of my main focuses is my personal and how I get my ideas out and ways to improve myself in any way, shape, or form. And so, if you want an honest opinion, I'll do my best to give you one without hurting anybody's feelings. But if something needs to be said, I'll be do it as tactfully as possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Do you like radical honesty?
Yes. If you
Okay.
can elaborate more, I have my own concepts of that, I guess, but I sounds like a very appealing concept.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, let's talk about some of the more specific tasks, like for example, CAD. What what skills on the CAD do you have? You've done modeling software. What experience on CAD do you have again? Let me
That
see.
was about
Like for example, because we have the design, but we gotta get it basically transferred from Texas. The guys who built the latest prototype, we gotta go down there and draw it up. Um, would you be interested in doing CAD work?
yes, I wouldn't like to spend all my day behind a computer, but I would definitely, if it's, I don't mind doing it if it's something that's important to the job. So it obviously
Mm-hmm.
is. So I'd be more than happy to do the CAD work in that regards. And I'm these products you're designing are basically all flat surfaces and very geometric shapes. So
Yeah.
those are much more easily um, put into CAD work. In regards to that, it'll probably take me about a week of refreshing on CAD, and after that, I'll be able to go full steam on that basically.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What about, I mean, you have modeling software experience that you do know right now without going into CAD?
Not so
Like,
much as I did some alias and I was going to school for 2 semesters, and two of those products are in my portfolio that I sent. But as far as within the past 2 years, as far as dedicated work on those programs, I haven't had any. But
hmm
that's why I pick it up very quickly with the video editing. That's the first time I
yeah,
used Adobe Premiere Pro, and
yeah,
a week before that I tried Windows Movie Maker, and so I pick things up very readily. I know
yeah,
I worked with Adobe Illustrator and Photoshop, and I've worked with Alias and SolidWorks, so I know how the systems are set up. And since they change on a annual basis, it's hard to keep up with all the processes. So now that I have the fundamentals of how they work ingrained, once I go back and revisit them, they're much more readily accepted into my
yeah,
work
yeah.
process.
What are your thoughts on team development? Like, for example, helping recruit any subject matter expertise required. Like, see, because one part of the process would be developing supporting tools like the iron worker, CNC torch table, CNC circuit mill, on which we have people working. Um, how much are you in? I don't know, like in terms of finding. Have you done any? Do you have any experience in recruiting people?
Not in the professional
Mm-hmm.
sense of how you're using it, but in regards to the work I'm doing, I guess I moved out here for with the intentions of somehow getting involved with repurposing gray water. And that's when I found the permaculture class. And that's when I found Max Myers with NorCal Aquaponics. And I took his course. And then after I took that course, I went and talked to the experts of aquaponics in Milwaukee. And I checked out their facilities. And I had a one-on-one meeting with some of the people who are starting their own facility. And I found the local people out here outside of Milwaukee who are now working with on aquaponics professionals. And I found another gentleman up in Nevada City and the people I'm referring to. So as far as finding the people I'm willing to work with, I'm very good at that. I know I kind of apply chaos theory in that method. I
Mm-hmm.
don't necessarily just put out a flash advertisement and say we're looking for engineers. I will go to and I'll call the engineering program at a school. I'll cold call engineering firms. I'll do whatever is necessary to basically get that
Mm-hmm.
information and resources.
Yeah, yeah. Um, let's see. Are you a team player?
Yes,
How would you, tell me
I'm a,
more?
I'm a team player as long as everybody understands the goal, understands their responsibilities, understands what's expected of them, what's not acceptable. Went over your rules of conduct, and if everybody can proactively engage those rules of conduct, I don't foresee any problems
Mm-hmm.
as far as working with a team. And that's why I've been kind of taking this more of loner approach to this business, my own personal business development over the past 2 years, because it's hard to find people who are really doing what they're doing because they love it and do it because they want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And if people aren't doing it for that reason, they're basically, it's almost a facade of their interest, and it's more of a self-serving purpose instead of a larger purpose. So that's where I really enjoy the idea of coming to work at open source ecology, because everyone's going to be on the same page and be willing to work together and have an open mind and ask questions. And if they don't have answers, they'll find somebody who does have it. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm really looking forward to that. I have yet to have any really tangible and real life examples of quality leadership, excluding my mentors and the people who have helped me out and along the way, which is why I really appreciate mentoring now and
Mm-hmm.
leadership even more so. But I didn't get that even in institutions I was in, even the Marine Corps, and there's a lot of hypocrisy. So it's been hard for me to get those examples. And since I learned by example, and I think everyone does, once I start to get those examples of somebody doing it in front of me, I try to emulate and embody everything about those best practices. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
forward to my own personal growth through this process.
What do you think about meritocracy? We're a meritocracy, basically, that in that people who show demonstrated merit get higher and higher responsibility, but up to that point, it might be that you have to basically prove yourself.
I love that idea. I remember that aspect of the conversation with Marshall Hilton,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where I was taking the first permaculture class I took. It was they had a course on intentional communities, and they had everybody line up in a line. But basically, some either people really want a group consensus, or they appreciate the structure, kind of the military aspect. So I've worked with both groups already. But the thing people fail to realize is no matter what, there's going to be a hierarchy. And the purpose of a hierarchy is you put people in place you can trust, and they'll make those competent decisions because you elected them to do so. And then it's even more important as well for the people who elected them to make those decisions to ensure to hold them accountable that those decisions are being made in the best interest of the group. So the hierarchy is going to be there. How to pronounce it, meritocracy is going to be that's a great idea. I would like to see it in work, in play.
Yeah. Can you take orders?
Yes. Yes, I can.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any concerns about, so from what you've heard, what you know about us, do you have any issues or concerns or questions that are bothering you regarding our work, or?
Actually, that leads me to an idea, actually. One question or concern regarding your work is that it's obviously looking at open sourcing this information, and you start building the clay with brick press. And when I look forward and I try to see that being applied in cities and states around the country, I see the government trying to get involved with saying this building isn't to code or this and that, and really trying to have us putting in a mechanism for control and basically impeding the work. So that's where I would like to actively have conversations with you and everybody involved with ways to enable this idea to be implemented as fast as possible. And an idea I had with that was contacting the National Congress of American Indians, and actually already contacted Rose Whitehair. She is the program manager for Partnership for Tribal Governments and the point of contact for the program called Our Natural Resources. So I see possibly I would like to do is work with the American Indians, and I actually have a friend who's a reservation rep in Big Bend, and a lot of my friends are Indians, and they're some of the greatest people I know. And if we can work with the American Indians, they're a sovereign country protected by our country. So they can make their own laws regarding the construction of buildings, with the production of organic food and selling and distribution of it. And I could really see that being a route to, one, enable a seamless implementation and replication of this around the country, but also giving opportunity to people who deserve it the most.
Huh.
And
what's the level of federal jurisdiction over native lands?
I believe they're a sovereign nation, so they have supreme control over what happens on the reservation. Besides, obviously, it's endangering other people. But otherwise, I'm not too sure about the specifics, but they basically have supreme control over their laws and governance.
Yeah, definitely something to consider.
So that's as far as my concerns, I guess.
Yeah.
I really don't have any concerns. I'm very mobile. I guess was recently just called a gypsy, more or less, because I kind of travel where the next job is required for me to gain the next resource or tool to develop my idea, and which is very, very similar. And that's in that regard, I understand I can't do it all myself. So
yeah, well, tell me about your present working relationship. Well, so what's your relationship to that land-based facility out there that you're on?
Right now, it is basically I manage myself. I just kind of check in with the updates on how everything's developing.
And when you say DIA, are you talking about the enterprise plan for the aquaponics and composting?
This is more for the actual worm farm, basically, I'm doing here on the property. Okay. And that's how this venture started. Is I met this couple at Fincas Las Nubes at an aquaponics permaculture intensive course in Nicaragua, and I did my research after the course, went back to Milwaukee, saw the composting, came back to this town of 150 people where I was staying, got into the vermicomposting and saw that as a profitable method of starting this process, called down here and push the idea to him, and we started working together. So now it's basically I'm ultimately kind of the creative director for this long-term vision here in this project and finding a way to make it happen. And it doesn't have to be happen overnight. It can happen in the next 2 or 3 years. So if part of that is going to work with open source ecology to make it so you can get your job done faster, so we can do ours more effectively.
Yeah.
You know, if I were to do it all by myself out here, it'd probably take me 3 or 4 years to do it, and I wouldn't be able to help you guys if I was doing it by myself. But went to your property and helped you do it. We could work together, and then all of a sudden we could probably get it done in half the time if we work together.
Uh-huh, yeah. Agreed. And as far as you can basically liberate yourself from the present work on developing the worm farm there, or are you kind of attached that you have to be there for some things, or?
It's very small scale right now. We're only had one pail. We started with 18 pails that we were going to ultimately grow, and was down to one pail, and then that's when I applied for the job, and now we just got some more worms, and now we're up to 20 pails again, and then so I'm not married to it, but I need to ensure that the people here are trained on how to run it. So we're going to run it at a real small level baseline, so everybody here can get acclimated to it, know the processes, without getting without getting burdened down by the amount of work. So we're going to keep it at a lower level and get everybody up to speed on it. And while that's going on, I could be working on source ecology. So I'm not married to it. I could see maybe if I could see I'm not married to it. I'm able to liberate myself from the work.
Yeah. As far as when you said your idea or a greater idea, I mean, what is that greater idea for you?
Well, the way I put it a couple months ago, after I gave it was basically a aquaponics, worm farm, agroforestry, educational resource supply hub about anything and everything about basically living off the grid, and that's a long term goal. So to have aquaponics, worm farming, have demonstration classes on clay earth brick pressed. They actually have a long term goal here of turning this into an eco community and the kind of like a cottage industry property. They basically it's in line exactly with your goal. My 30-year plan that I was working on, started developing about mid of my sophomore year in college, was when I was going to school for product design. I was originally going to come out here to the West Coast, put in a couple of years at a design firm somewhere, try to get a job at IDEO, and then work there for 10 years, and then start my own design consultancy firm. And basically, I was actually looking at trying to find ways to manufacture the clay earth brick press and some of these other modes of green manufacturing. And I was not exposed to your idea, the Global Village construction set, until the founder of Living Mandala, who came down to visit me at the aquaponics course, briefly mentioned it, and I really didn't really comprehend the idea yet because I didn't get too deep into it. I just glanced at it. So now that I'm looking in hindsight, it's basically your project, what you're working on, is where I would have wanted to be about 20 years from now. So that's where working for you is basically expediting my 30-year process, and I'm happy to work with your idea because it's very similar to mine, and they're so similar I can easily transcend all my energy to yours because it's basically the same.
Hmm.
It's just better
Yeah.
articulate.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. So when would you be available to come out here? At this point.
I was right now. It looked like the date was July 1st, and if everybody's arriving on July 1st, if it's like a migration there, and everybody's arriving on July 1st, and there's an orientation, and if everybody who's coming there is kind of going through this process, I have no problem making it there on July 1st. But if the dates are flexible, I could probably be there. I would like to be there July 15th, then that way I have time to go to the Greener Mind Summit conference, which I would be part of my networking opportunities since they've seen me grow since it's my third year attending since graduating school in May 2010. So I would like to attend that, and also make sure that everybody here is finally really understands the process. So earliest July 1st, ideally anywhere from the 15th or the week following that, because I would like to have to bring some of my stuff and drop it off at home in Milwaukee. I was going to stop there because I haven't been home since December, so I'll probably stop there, say hi for a couple of days, and then go down to Factory E Farm.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. For some reason, I had a note on the interview page that you'd be available in like 2 weeks head time.
That
What
is
was?
because that is because the soil was not working in the worm farm,
Oh. Oh yeah.
and then that I came back and literally once I got the second interview was scheduled as like that Wednesday or that Thursday. I was like, all right, I'm gonna go look at the worms, make sure they're not all dead. Went out there and I saw that one bucket out of the 12 that were left. I was actually successful. So when in regards to 1 to 2 weeks, that was because everything was kind of falling apart over here, and I had to make evasive maneuvers to keep all parties happy, including myself.
Hmm.
And that's when that developed. And right after that, that's when the worm farm started working. So now we can have the best. I can have the best of both worlds. So that's where I could actually utilize this time to
Hmm.
uh, to get that at a baseline for everybody here to work with and learn the process while I'm gone.
Okay. I see. All right. Yeah, we're gonna have people basically come in on a rolling basis, so it won't be like a major orientation at that time. It'll be ongoing. Yep. Let's see. So in a video that you did, was that you doing the welding or was it somebody else?
That was me.
And you just put it on a tripod, the camera?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's pretty good.
I,
Um, so was that your, let's see, was that your first class in welding or?
I took a 5 hour MIG welding workshop that this past the Sunday before that, and that was my first time actually using a MIG welder. The only
Mm-hmm.
welder I've used was a basic stick welder in high school, tagging together my friend's go kart frame when it broke,
Yeah.
and that was just one weekend. So that was my first time actually welding, and the video wasn't with anybody else. That was just me
Yeah.
and the camera.
Awesome. Yeah. And what other? Remind me what other
I guess in
workshop
regards to
experience?
that, I wanted to give credit to the Curious Forge and Liam Ellerby for facilitating that course and enabling me to attend it. So that's one. Yeah, I was wanting to give him credit for that because without a lot of those concepts and ideas used in that video, I actually learned at his workshop. So it was kind of his workshop was just replicated in the video. So
Uh-huh. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Tell me what other what's so when you want to do the fabrication optimization, strategic development on a fabrication. What are the skills that you already have right now? So you've got the little bit of welding. Have you done torching or?
I have not torched.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I could have an example as far as how well I pick things up. I actually have a letter of recommendation which I was going to send.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was actually going to apply for the co-founder position. He's kind of my just to kind of punch above my weight, as mentioned in one of the TED Talk videos, and just kind of open the door. And the letter of recommendation was from the project, a lake dredging project at a private fly fishing ranch in Northern California. I was driving a Komatsu HM400, which is an 80,000 pound gross weight vehicle, articulating dump truck. That was my first time ever driving that, any equipment of that nature. And in the letter, and even he'll vouch for me and some of the other operators there, within a week, I was basically the best operator of those trucks. I was actually already troubleshooting some of the
Mm-hmm.
mechanical and electrical malfunctions as far as sensors and ways to troubleshoot and resolve some of the issues. So I pick
Mm-hmm.
up things very rapidly, and no matter what skill, no matter how technical, I kind of I'm hypersensitive and very high sensitivity when it comes to my environment, and
Mm-hmm.
I can't stress enough how quickly I adapt, I guess.
Yeah. 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 Okay. What about the strategic development part? Tell me your ideas about that.
Strategic development, that's more of really kind of having that divergent thinking and finding some of these not so contemporary ways of developing the business. One being the National Congress of American Indians, and kind of finding these different ways of trying to achieve your goal.
Yeah.
And so it's not, I'm not just stuck with a very, a tunnel vision approach. I would like, I kind of get out there and really find ways to get your goals accomplished. That's one thing I kind of pride
Yeah.
myself in, is trying to find the truths and the best ways to solve problems, and go to the end of the world to do that. So as far as strategic development, finding ways, finding the points of contact, to, traveling somewhere to get the information, to meet them face to face. If they're not able to do it over the phone, or if it's not able to be as productively over the phone, write a handwritten letter if necessary, and whatever is necessary. Like, one of the other idea I had was, what about having summer internships from engineering schools? What about finding ways to create more of a science behind orbital psychology and some of these practices, and actually maybe start developing a curriculum? There's no education that's higher education that's focused on sustainability in that regard. It's more of a greenwashed sustainability and how we can apply it to corporations, which themselves aren't sustainable. So the way sustainability is being viewed now, it's basically it's going to be used as a crutch for these corporations, and only to enable them to keep doing what they're doing. So we need to provide these radical examples, and I would like to do that.
Okay. Yeah, I noticed in you also mentioned about information architecture, like the documentation of the compressed earth brick press, all of that. Would you be interested in using basically the template, the control panel template, and start filling in that in a usable form of information architecture on the wiki?
Yeah, that'd be great. I like that.
And what value do you think you can add to that process? So you've got a design background. You have, I guess, how did you do your designs? What software was that in?
For
Like the product design work you've done before?
a lot of that was hands-on. Otherwise, it was basically just Adobe Illustrator. And as far as like the design work, what do you mean? What aspect of it?
No, let me refocus back on that question at hand. So the information architecture. What are your ideas for?
I got you. All right.
For implementing information architecture.
The problem I saw with the control panel, right when I was looking at it, it was the two-dimensional aspect of it. And so you have a goal when you're looking at the information. Like, I want to learn this, so you're going through it, and eventually you get to a point like, oh, I don't know exactly what this term is. So you have to kind of diverge from your current objective to kind of now learn this process. So it's basically it's very hard to deviate from one page, find what you need to go, and then make your way back to it and kind of get back on track. And that process itself is kind of cumbersome as far as how the information is connected. So what I was thinking about is basically bringing the information into a three-dimensional space, so then it could be eventually translated back into digital space, I guess, but no longer in a two-dimensional format. And so some of the ideas with that, to cover those, is there's the platonic solids and the flower of life, which is all, it's everywhere. It's in everything. And
how would you implement that? That's some coding. Would you be able to code that up, or what?
I would not be able to code it up myself, and that's where I would basically be able to develop a three-dimensional analogous version of it, and kind of.
What do you mean by develop a 3D version? What, the concept or actual implementation?
Of the actual information, and just to kind of try many different variations of ways to structure it, which in that three-dimensional space, when you start to actually say those the strategic development, that'd be one section of, or this every category, those 8 categories that are in there now, would be one section in these platonic solids that I'll be using for the three-dimensional structure, and then after that you start to identify the other information in those, and it's basically the same thing that's on two-dimensional but in three-dimensional space, and then it actually gives you a different perspective on the information, and you're able to make different connections, which
Mm-hmm.
would to better better design the architecture for the information in a two-dimensional space. And as far as the actual encoding of it, when I talk about like five-dimensional space, and it's kind of, that's where I could see, you know, maybe some company actually really trying to see, hey, maybe this is possible with some of these concepts that were developed in the dimensional space, and maybe then people are running with it. And it's not something I could physically do myself, as a lot of things you need other people to do it. So I'm able to develop these kind of not mainstream ideas, and I actually be able to find a way to implement them. And when I come with these different concepts of the informational architecture, those five platonic solids I would model it after are all encompassed in the one Metatron cube, which is in the flower of life. And those five platonic solids are basically, they're present in any and everything in existence, and they also transcend between each other. And so basically those five platonic solids, although extremely different geometrically, somehow within the architecture they're able to transcend between themselves. So I
Mm-hmm.
figured if we have five different areas of subject matter or different lenses, like if you want to focus more on the financial aspect, we can put this lens over it, and then it'll draw the connections in three-dimensional space between what relate. And then if you want to look at more of the social aspects, you have those kind of things tagged in it, and then it would highlight those aspects of it. So it'll provide different ways to filter through all the information in the control panel without
Yeah.
having it yourself.
Okay. Hey, we're kind of running out of time. I want to go through a couple more questions, actually. So, on the construction front, if we're going to be building some of the new construction, are you interested in participating on that to get your hands on
Yes. Yes.
that part? What about any of the agriculture? You want to? Can you be out there in the dirt
Yes.
as well? Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. Um, and as far as the workshop like part of the big part of the work will be organizing and optimizing the workflow in the workshop. Are you good at doing that kind of stuff, like organizing? Like we have a bunch of shelves and all the materials and everything have to be organized properly and the workshop laid out properly. What's your comment on that?
Yes, I'm actually very good at organizing
Uh-huh.
in that
Maybe that'll be.
regard.
Mhm.
And but in that regards, I'd also need to work with somebody to find out how exactly I could work well with others and get some direction. And then I'm
Uh,
really good at setting up something one way. And if something's really not working, I have no problem to go back and redo the whole thing to get it done right. Because once it's done right, chances are it's not going to go back to it. So I actually get that from my mother. She's very, very, very meticulous when it comes to organizing. So that's something
mm-hmm. That could
I
be. Yeah, that could be quite useful because we still have the various tools spread out between the old workshop and the new one, so we need to really streamline that. Hey, Aaron, you got some questions? What else we need to cover? Mm-hmm.
in regards to the organizational aspect of part of the problem here, we have about 15 years of storage in our facility. So basically, working with you would be my trial run on being able to implement that here as well. So that's something I can also help you in the full notion that it's going to benefit me in the long run. So I'd be giving it my everything while doing it for you as well. So that's something I would actually could see myself doing the fabrication, farming, strategic development, construction, and organization of the workshop.
Uh-huh.
So
So fabrication, optimization of that, strategic development, farming, construction, organization of workshop are
yes,
all interesting to you. So basically, lots of hands-on skills. Uh-huh. Yep.
and networking is another skill of mine.
Networking. And on a strategic development, so you're talking about alternative ways to, or just exploring all the different channels that this project can be rolled out. That's kind of what you mean by that.
Yes, and that's where I would like to. I would actually like to, if this. Yes, that's the way I would like to do it. I like to. If I can do it as part of my obligated time with you, I would find some way to do it on my side, my own personal time. So that's
Yeah, yeah.
what's required
What
of me.
experience? I mean, tell me what experience you have in strategic development so far.
Strategic development, the basically everything I've done thus far is, like I said, I graduated school from product design. I wasn't in go design products. So as far as strategic development, you identify your main goals and purpose. So there was a lot of ambiguity, and I wasn't really sure where I was going, but I just knew if I moved somewhere with the intention of repurposing gray water, that will lead me to my next task, next thing I have to be doing. And that got me to aquaponics, and that got me to composting. So I'm actually very good at what I call chaotic objectivism or deterministic future in regards to chaos theory. So I'm able to have a goal and not be set to any way to accomplish it, and be open to any way to accomplish it.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, and then okay, that sounds good. So we're kind of out of time here. We got a next interview, and as far as can you send us 3 references? Did you send that to us yet, or?
Yes, I can. Would you like references as well as letter recommendations, or just the references? Because I can do both.
Yeah, if you can actually do a letter of recommendation from somebody who's worked with you and understands your strengths and weaknesses, that would be great. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. Can you just put a link? Have you seen Aaron? You're talking about the interviews page, where so Miguel, have you seen the recruiting interviews page?
Yes, I have.
Okay, so your name is there. So yeah, if you can put those references and letter, upload that up there, that would be great.
I'll put the references up. The letter of recommendations, depending on how busy the people are, may take anywhere from a couple of days to a week to attain. And what would facilitate that to be done faster is if I can get maybe a kind of a goal that you would like for them to speak about, and how, so they have something to reference my skills and abilities to, so they actually have something.
Yes. Aaron, can you write that up? Excellent. Yeah.
Great. I have those 3 recommendations already, references kind of picked out, and I should be able to get those checked. How do you want the references put up there, just the names, or would you want?
Yeah, names and contact, like phone or email. Mm-hmm.
Sounds great.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. Aaron, are we good for now? Excellent. Okay, well, Miguel, thanks for your time, and we'll be in touch then.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
You're
Bye-bye.
welcome. Thank you.